For someone as experienced and publicly composed as George Clooney, life has rarely slowed down enough to truly catch him off guard. Now in his mid-60s, Clooney has spent decades moving confidently between worlds: Hollywood sets, international humanitarian forums, political discussions, and family life, often appearing untouched by the uncertainty that unsettles most people. His career has unfolded under constant scrutiny, yet he has managed to project steadiness and control in both his personal and professional life. That sense of stability, however, does not make a person immune to moments that demand reflection. Even those who seem unshakable can be stopped in their tracks by quiet reminders that time, health, and certainty are never guaranteed, no matter how accomplished or protected one may appear. When public advocacy turns inward, Clooney's moment of pause arrived not through a dramatic event, but during his participation in a widely broadcast initiative focused on public health awareness and the importance of preventative care. The program brought together public figures to encourage audiences to take proactive steps toward their own well-being, particularly through routine screenings and early detection. Clooney joined the project with the same seriousness he brings to many causes, expecting to lend visibility rather than receive a personal wake-up call. Yet, as part of the process, participants were encouraged to undergo standard medical evaluations, and it was during these routine checks that Clooney was reminded how quickly the focus of advocacy can turn inward, the unease of uncertainty. While no major diagnosis was announced, Clooney later acknowledged that some results required follow-up, and that alone was enough to unsettle him. The experience forced him into a position unfamiliar to someone accustomed to preparation and control: waiting. He described the quiet anxiety that sets in when answers are delayed, when the mind fills the silence with questions that have no immediate resolution. For Clooney, the discomfort was not rooted in confirmed illness, but in the realization of how easily something serious could exist unnoticed. That awareness, he admitted, was sobering, reminding him that good health is not something one can assume simply because life feels busy and productive. Waiting changes perspective. In interviews that followed, Clooney spoke openly about how the waiting period affected him emotionally. He reflected on the way uncertainty reshapes thought patterns, pulling attention toward time, priorities, and unfinished intentions. The experience prompted him to consider how many people live with similar fears every day, often without access to reassurance or swift follow-up. Despite his resources, he felt the same vulnerability shared by millions who sit in exam rooms or wait for phone calls, hoping for clarity. That shared human experience, he said, stripped away any illusion of exceptionality and replaced it with humility. Choosing to speak instead of retreat. Rather than keeping the experience private, Clooney made a conscious decision to talk about it publicly, carefully, and responsibly. He emphasized that his goal was not to provoke fear, but to normalize the reality that preventative care can be emotionally challenging, even when outcomes are ultimately reassuring. By sharing his experience, he aimed to counter the tendency many people have to avoid medical checkups out of discomfort or denial. Clooney framed routine screenings not as a sign of weakness or worry, but as an act of awareness, one that provides information rather than guarantees, and empowerment rather than panic, redefining preventative care. Clooney's message resonated because it avoided extremes. He did not dramatize his experience or present himself as a cautionary tale. Instead, he spoke about the value of paying attention before problems escalate, stressing that early awareness often expands options rather than limiting them. He acknowledged that screenings can be intimidating, but argued that uncertainty unchecked is far more difficult to manage. His approach encouraged people to view healthcare as an ongoing relationship rather than a last resort intervention, shifting the narrative from fear to responsibility. A life built on persistence. To understand why Clooney's words carry weight, it helps to consider the arc of his life. Born in Lexington, Kentucky, He grew up in a household where public engagement and current events were part of daily conversation. His father, a respected journalist, instilled an understanding of responsibility and communication early on. Although Clooney initially pursued journalism himself, he eventually left college to chase an acting career, a decision that led to years of rejection and instability. That period of uncertainty shaped his perspective, teaching him resilience and reinforcing the idea that progress often requires patience and persistence. From struggle to recognition, Clooney's breakthrough came with his role on the television series ER, which transformed him into a global star. Yet even at the height of that success, he resisted complacency. Rather than settling into a comfortable identity, he pursued film roles that challenged him creatively and defied easy categorization. His career became defined not just by popularity, but by intentional choices that balanced mainstream appeal with artistic risk. This pattern of thoughtful reinvention would later inform how he approached public advocacy and personal reflection alike. Success and responsibility. Winning an Academy Award marked a milestone in Clooney's career, but it also expanded his sense of responsibility. As his influence grew, he became increasingly selective about the projects he supported and the causes he championed. He gravitated toward stories that explored moral complexity and social consequence, using his platform to amplify conversations that extended beyond entertainment. Over time, accolades became less about personal achievement and more about the opportunities they created to contribute meaningfully to broader discussions. Advocacy with depth. Clooney's humanitarian work has long reflected this sense of purpose. His involvement in international justice initiatives and human rights advocacy has been sustained and informed, not symbolic. He has consistently emphasized accountability, education, and long-term engagement, avoiding the superficiality that sometimes accompanies celebrity activism. That same seriousness now characterizes the way he speaks about health awareness, approaching the subject with care, accuracy, and respect for the audience's intelligence. Family as a lens for awareness, marriage, and fatherhood further deepen Clooney's perspective. Since starting a family, he has spoken about how priorities shift when responsibility extends beyond oneself. Health, once easy to postpone amid demanding schedules, takes on new meaning when others depend on you. That awareness influenced his decision to speak openly about routine medical care, reinforcing the idea that taking care of oneself is inseparable from caring for loved ones. His message was not rooted in fear, but in foresight. Why early attention matters. Medical professionals consistently emphasize that early awareness improves outcomes across a wide range of conditions. Clooney's experience underscored this principle without overstating it. He acknowledged that screenings are not guarantees, but tools, ways to gather information and make informed choices. By framing his experience responsibly, he helped normalize conversations many people avoid, reducing stigma around preventative care and encouraging proactive engagement rather than reactive crisis management. A measured public response. The public reaction to Clooney's remarks was swift and largely positive. Many fans shared stories of scheduling long-delayed checkups after hearing his words, while healthcare organizations praised his balanced tone. Rather than relying on alarmist messaging, Clooney's approach encouraged calm, thoughtful action. Colleagues and peers expressed appreciation for his openness, noting that his willingness to discuss vulnerability without dramatization made the message more accessible and trustworthy. Continuing forward with clarity. Despite the emotional impact of the experience, Clooney has not retreated from his work. He continues to act, direct, and produce, guided by curiosity rather than obligation. Those who work with him often remark that he appears more focused than ever, choosing projects that align with his evolving values. Awareness for Clooney did not lead to withdrawal. It led to clarity, reinforcing the importance of intention in both personal and professional decisions. A reflection of modern life. In a world defined by constant motion and high expectations, Clooney's message feels particularly timely. Modern culture often equates endurance with strength, encouraging people to push forward without pause. His experience challenges that notion, suggesting that attention and care are not indulgences, but necessities. By speaking openly, he helped dismantle outdated ideas about silence and toughness, particularly among men who are statistically less likely to seek preventative care. Legacy beyond achievement. George Clooney's legacy will undoubtedly include iconic roles and prestigious awards, but it increasingly includes moments of thoughtful influence like this one. His willingness to discuss uncertainty and responsibility adds depth to his public image, transforming admiration into relatability. That relatability is what gives his words lasting impact, bridging the gap between celebrity and shared human experience. Strength reconsidered. Clooney's reflections offer a quiet redefinition of strength. Rather than denying vulnerability, he models thoughtful response. He does not frame himself as a warning or a survivor, but as someone who learned something important in time and felt compelled to share it. That distinction preserves dignity while promoting awareness, encouraging action without fear or misinformation. Looking ahead with intention. As Clooney continues his journey, his approach to health awareness remains steady and measured. He understands the reach of his voice and uses it carefully, mindful that tone matters as much as content. By speaking with honesty and restraint, he offers something rare in public discourse, a message that respects both emotion and evidence, a quiet but enduring reminder. Ultimately, George Clooney's story is not about illness, but about attention. It is about the moments that remind us none of us are invincible, and that care taken today shapes tomorrow. At this stage of his life, Clooney remains an enduring figure, not only because of what he has achieved, but because of how responsibly he navigates influence. His message is simple, timeless, and profoundly human. Listen to your body, respect your time, and take care of yourself. Now, not later.